Well, first up, year-on-year inflation crossed the 30% mark to hit 31.7% in the month of July. However, the rate of inflation slowed down in the month under review as inflation went up by 1.9% over that of the previous month. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, the increase in inflation was once again caused by 6 divisions, including transport. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kwawu has been explaining in this report. The rate of inflation, however, slowed down in July. The marginal increase over that of June reflects the increasing cost of operations for businesses, which is influenced by a rise in fuel prices. 6 divisions, led by transport, recorded inflation rates higher than the national average of 31.7%. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kwawu explains.
Specifically, transport 4.9%, followed by housing, water, electricity and gas 3.8%, food and non-alcoholic beverages 3.3%. From the perspective of contribution to overall inflation, we see an increase in the contribution of housing, water, electricity and gas moving from 13.7% to 14.4%. The 2 other divisions with the highest weight, specifically food and non-alcoholic beverages and transport, indicated a slight reduction, specifically 0.5 percentage points in the case of the contribution of food to overall inflation, reducing from 44.9 for the month of June 2022 to 45.4 for the month of July 2022.
For the first time in a while, the Eastern region recorded the highest rate of inflation at 38.1% due to rising inflation of non-food items.
Typically, from a regional perspective and disaggregating between food and non-food inflation, we identify the Western region recording the highest food inflation of 44.8% and Eastern region recording the highest non-food inflation of 36.6%. This culminates into Eastern region recording the overall highest rate of inflation of 38.1%, followed by the Western region recording an inflation figure of 37.6%. Again, it is important to keep in mind the weights across these 10 administrative regions, with Greater Accra taking about 28.9% of the total weights across the 10 administrative regions.
On a quarterly basis, the average rate of inflation increased by 10.7 percentage points, and in the second quarter it stood at 27% relative to the first quarter of 16.3%. All right, we'll have some more on this, some analysis on this latest information we're getting from the Ghana Statistical Service. Inflation hitting 31.7%. As we have indicated, the rate is, however, slowing down. So what does this mean? Meantime, we are picking another worrying information for our economy because investors don't like this news. Ghana's credit worthiness has been downgraded again to junk status by another rating agency. The institution in question has lowered Ghana's ratings from B- to CCC+. An official release is expected later this week. Here's George Yaffe with the scoop.
Based on some legal issues, we will not give the name of the agency in question for now, but just give more details about their verdict on Ghana. Now, according to this agency, their decision to lower Ghana's credit ratings was largely influenced by the worsening state of government's finances because of challenges in raising funds from the international market, as well as Ghana's rising debt stock. There are also concerns about Ghana facing some real challenges in terms of meeting its debt obligations for this year. They also fear that inflation will be going up further before it slows down by the end of this year. Now, following this downgrade, this should mean that 2 out of the 3 agencies that assesses Ghana's credit worthiness has downgraded our credit ratings. Our ability to pay back our debts on time has been described as highly speculative, or let's say been put into junk status. Now it is clear that Ghana would not only find it difficult to raise money from the international market, but the cost of servicing existing loans could hit the roof. It could also be very difficult for other private firms that want to borrow from the international market as well, as this could further increase the cost of doing business in the country.
Well, a senior finance lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Kwawu, joins us to discuss this and rising inflation. But I want to begin with the news about inflation for the month of July, hitting 31.7%. Good news, the rate of inflation is slowing down 1.9% over that of the previous month. Your reaction to the latest numbers from the Ghana Statistical Service, Sarah?
Okay, thank you very much. It's good that the rate has slowed down, but that has also gone to increase the overall percentage rate of inflation that we have in the country. And so that cannot, in a way, be so much a good news for us. It also requires that the managers of our economy still have to work on more issues because prices of food items are still going up. Over the period, we have made suggestions that government needs to ensure that they bring about a system where they can transport food items from the farming areas to areas that need it, so that the transportation cost would be able to go up. That we have not seen much work that has been done on that particular area. And so it is much worrying to see the depreciation of the cedi going up and up without anything happening on that particular angle. Recently, the Bank of Ghana said that they're going to buy gold from the producers in Ghana cedi so that they can shore up the foreign reserves that we have. But over the period, I have maintained that the monetary policy of the country should not be left in the hands of only the market. Our regulators and the rest need to meet the international development partners and fashion out how these things could be done over time, so that the ever-changing depreciation, increasing depreciation that we find in the city, we can actually look at it from a positive direction so that it will not continue to affect us in our market. We don't have regulations in our market in terms of prices, not price controls anyway, but then when we are import dependent, we import almost everything and the exchange rate is depreciating, it is going to affect our prices that we pay in the market, and that will also affect the inflation rates that we find in our markets today.
All right, Sarah, but it appears at least that something that we are doing is working. If you look at the trends over the past few months, we've seen the rate of inflation slow, and perhaps because the Bank of Ghana stepped in with some monetary measures. Now, there are also indications that, and of course, for instance, for the central bank to ensure there's another increase when the MPC meets again. Would you prescribe that? Even though we know this is more of a supply issue.
You see, we should not try to pamper ourselves at the back that we are doing something that is working for us. We need to face the fact that fundamentally the economy is in trouble, and for that matter, pumping money into the system to shore up the exchange rate that we have is a short-term measure. What is the overall long-term goal that we need to have as a country to solve this particular situation? For how long will the Bank of Ghana continue to pump money into the system? If you are doing that, we will end up depleting our foreign reserves. And when the foreign reserves deplete, what are we going to do? So we have the situation where our ratings have been downgraded over time, where borrowing from the international market might also be a problem. And so for me, yes, we're trying to shore up looking at the monetary policy to control inflation. But is that the only way?
Well, you're going to say something?
No, I think that is not the only way. So our Bank of Ghana the vice president that leads the economic management team, they need to sit up. I don't expect them to be sleeping at this time when things are going haywire. And then those that we are going to borrow the money from, they are the ones who have the money. And they are telling us, this is what you are not doing right. Have we taken our time to contact these people to ask them what we can do right? Or we just sitting down and said, you are in another country, you are saying what you want, you have your say and we'll have our way. We cannot do business like that.
The vice president has said that things will get worse before they get better. So, I mean, with the slowdown we are seeing, we are just hoping that things are gradually getting better. But I want to pick your thoughts on this other report that we put up today, that Ghana risks another downgrade by another rating agency. I mean, it only gets worse at this point. What are the implications if we have this downgrade by this rating agency?
Yeah, the already downgrade that we have from S&P, Bloomberg, and the rest, saying that we've been brought from B- to C plus, and the rest is already telling our investors that there is a possibility that Ghana will not be able to pay their debts when they fall due. And for that matter, investors is a signal that they are giving to the market that if you want to do investment in Ghana, you must be very careful when you are borrowing to the government of Ghana. Otherwise, your monies might not be paid. It also makes it very difficult for Ghana to go to the international bond market to borrow money. Even with that, not only the international investors, the domestic investors can also be very worried whether government will be able to pay their debt when it falls due. And for that matter, it should be worrying for the government that if we have a further downgrade, it means that it is going to make it very difficult for government to raise the necessary monies that they have to look at. Now, the interesting aspect to me is that would have to force us to come home and see what we can do on our own to ensure that we raise the necessary money from within the markets that we have. That will go a long way to have, how would I say, that will go a long way to affect the cleanup exercise that we already have in our country, when we have been told that
by that
98% of the monies have been paid already, where a lot of people in Ghana have still have their monies locked up in the financial institutions. They've not received their monies. And once they've not received their monies, investing in government instruments, in treasury bill and the rest, will still have a problem.
But there's the concern that means government is competing with the private sector for monies on the domestic front, which is also problematic, which means that, I mean, small businesses, we are trying to promote SMEs and getting the funding they want. 1 minute.
That is what we have been doing over time. Government always competes with the local market. And when government competes with the local market for funding, and these people have lent the money to government, and then the local banks and financial institutions have borrowed the money, government comes out with a cleanup exercise. And this cleanup exercise, people's monies are locked up through the actions of government, and they are not paying these people. And that has worsened the whole financial situation that we find in our country. And that is why we are here today, where prices of commodities and everything is going up. And government find it very difficult to borrow the necessary amount of money they want to run their businesses. And so there is the need for government to sit up.
All right, Sarah Kwawu, I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. We'll talk some time later. Sarah, a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast on issues to do with inflation and Ghana risking another downgrade from a ratings agency. That story we are following for you. Well, interesting, we are talking about inflation. And this morning, the graphic business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting sought to discuss how we can live within our means during this time of economic distress. Earlier, I spoke with Associate Professor with the University of Ghana Economics Department and Franklin Mensah, who is also a financial consultant, on how we can live within our means during these times. Take a listen.
Economy currently is severely strained. As you rightly pointed out, coming from the COVID pandemic, the impact that it had on this economy, and then being aggravated by the Ukraine-Russia war, means that our economy currently, the fundamental is shaky. We've recorded very large fiscal deficits over the last 2-3 years. Debt stock is currently around 78%. We are paying about a third of our expenditure to interest payments, servicing debts. Amortization hasn't come. About a third is going into compensation, and then about 18% or so going into statutory. I mean, that alone constitutes about 151 or so percent of our tax revenue. So that really means that there's no room, there's no fiscal space at all for government to do anything. And also happening at the back of sudden withdrawals, I mean, sell-off of our bonds by non-resident holders of our debts, meaning that putting, pressure on the currency. So you've seen the currency depreciating so fast, so steeply. The demand for the currency is high. We've also seen crude oil prices going up, which is really affecting export prices of crude in Ghana, and the implication that it has on our supply chain, the transport fares going up, affecting food prices, and therefore inflation also skyrocketing. So really we are in a very dire situation at the moment as a country.
And Mr. Franklin Mensah, apologies, I got your name wrong. So Franklin Mensah, financial consultant. It looks like it's going to get worse. I mean, just days ago, we saw the S&P downgrade our credit worthiness, and it looks like we're going to struggle to even raise funds externally to support our economy. So this makes this conversation crucial. And so what does it mean then to live within our means?
Well, we are going through very tough times for the private institutions or private businessman doing business. They're actually feeling it at this point because most of their projection is off, and then they are struggling to figure out their way forward, because getting a facility to even run their business operations day to day has become very difficult. So with the current forex running the way it is, it has probably put a dent into what people are planning to do at this point.
Yeah, and so when we say living within our means, does it necessarily mean maybe cutting down on spending? What are we looking at, Prof? Your mic?
Sorry, two ways. I mean, first you have to look at the size of the cake, and then you have to look at what your needs are, right? And so living within your means meaning that you have to cut your coat according to the size of it.
Well, somebody this morning I said that on radio, cut your coat according to your size. Somebody says now it's cut your coat according to your cloth.
Of course, I mean, all of it, has the similar meaning, right? So if it's according to your cloth, then the size of it matters, right? The size of your cloth matters a lot to how your cloth design and everything will be like. So it's essentially being able to match your revenue, or your expenditure to your revenue, so that at all times you have to make sure that you spend not more than the revenue that you have generated.
The thoughts of Professor Eric Osei-Sibeth, the Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana, also Franklin Mensah, who is a financial consultant. You're watching The Marketplace. We are switching to some tech developments. And joining me, lead for Eyes of Africa, Henry Kobler. Good afternoon to you, Henry. I want to begin with this report, and you can relate because you co-founded an online fashion store. So a report released by Adobe suggesting prices have begun to decline online. And it's interesting stuff, especially when we've been talking about inflation today. But my question is, are we seeing this trend here in Ghana? Are prices actually going down online?
Thank you very much, Daryl. So generally, I think that prices in Ghana are still a bit on the high if you're looking at the prices of products generally. But when you're looking at outside Ghana, there has been quite a bit of surge in the sales online. And so definitely if that becomes the trend, then you have a lot of stock inventory for most of the people that are on the e-commerce outside. In Ghana, we're still not seeing that effect on our platforms because generally it is becoming increasingly high, especially with our exchange rates and all, and still quite a lot of people trying to figure out how to have to buy things online. Again, with delivery fees and all of that coming into place, we really don't have the infrastructure or the ecosystem that definitely enhances online sales to get to be a bit better for us in this region.
I'm just wondering, you talked about a surge over time when it comes to online shopping. We know during the time of the pandemic, we saw a surge. Do we still have that number of people trading online since the pandemic has eased?
No, I mean, people are rather switching off from online platforms. I mean, one of very good example, which I think that we've been talking about most of the times, is Netflix, where you would have Netflix actually losing quite a number of customers, but having it more during the pandemic. Now, that is a very clear example of how people are sort of getting off online platforms. But the only reason why we're having this surge now is only because people are trying to be very comparative in terms of the prices of online platforms. And so when I jump onto online platforms to sort of want to buy anything, I have a very competitive mind in the lookout where I'm looking at product and how I can get the best out of the prices of the product. And so online platforms realizing this basically try to just play up a bit with the prices on the online platforms because it's so easy to sort of see prices on the online platforms and sort of buy easily. I have currently bought a phone on one of the phone selling companies who has an e-commerce platform in Ghana. And then you'd realize that the online price is sort of lower than the shop price, which is a strategy that they're sort of deploying to make people rather use the online platforms. But again, also being a bit competitive on the market.
Okay. I just want to also find out this. We've seen a lot of businesses complain, especially during these times of high inflation, the city going down. Is it lucrative to run an online shop? In other words, how's your business doing?
I think that running an online shop is rather more a bit expensive. I mean, in terms of not just finances, but even reputation. Because it gets to be a bit difficult always having products coming at different delivery prices when you have just walked in out on a weekend to sort of do all your shopping in one and then come in. So it's not that easy, again, to even set up the platform itself because, I mean, management of the platform becomes a bit difficult. But, I mean, with the advent of social media, I think that it's made it a bit easy for people to sort of jump on Instagram, Facebook. There are Facebook stores, Instagram stores that are available for people to sort of set up and then do some level of sales. But again, like I'm saying, it actually comes with a cost because the reputation around people having to scam other people on these platforms becomes a bit difficult. We've seen a very huge surge of fake accounts purporting to be a corporate account and also venturing into the part of sales, but definitely defrauding people that are on. And so the cost of reputation relatively comes to play here, and the cost of actually managing these platforms and getting the logistics services around it also becomes a bit expensive. But I think that it's actually comparable to having a brick and mortar. I mean, that's an alternative that you can sort of grow. The only thing is that we don't really have the ecosystem to relatively run. I mean, if I talk about an ecosystem, what I mean is Amazon would have a very smart smart logistics plan where it actually can be able to do delivery across board. But when it gets out to Ghana, I mean, every single thing you send out is sending out through a delivery guy at a cost of almost about 25 cedis. So imagine if you're buying like 10 items, every one of them coming in with a different delivery price. That's expensive. And so that ecosystem is not really around for us to be able to leverage on. But it's a good start for us. People are trying to, leverage on these platforms to try and make some sales. I don't know how the government is going to rake in some level of taxes from it, because I think that they should actually start looking at that now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know that they have started with their plans to tax e-commerce. So yes, we are going to see that happen. We are out of time. Thanks, Henry, for joining us. We'll speak same time next week on developments in the tech industry. And that's the Marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. This morning is on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. More on the latest inflation figure of 31.7% there for you to read. myjoyonline.com/business. We'll see you same time tomorrow.